Hey everybody, welcome to Proko. Getting the gesture and story in a pose is really important to draw awesome dynamic figures. So I thought I'd bring back Mike Mattesi to show us how he uses his force method. Mike wrote the force books, which are all really good and used widely in the animation industry. He teaches it at drawingforce.com. Okay, Mike, take it away.
All right, so here is our first model photograph. Let's take a look at this through the idea of function. So here's a ground plane. I want to keep in mind this idea of gravity, right? So I'm going to put actually a letter G here with a circle and say, I want to keep this in mind and try to understand that that's something I have to keep considering. So what is she doing? Well, I see her whole body is like sweeping up like this. And what's causing it to sweep up like this? She has this very strong arm that is sweeping into her shoulder, and then that's going down on a slight angle like so to her hand. So that's like the support, right, to this. And from that, you can see how her body is doing its best to try to be a long plank, like this way. So let's go for that, and then I'm going to show you some subtlety that's actually in that. So she's like this, she's holding up the weight of her body, pushing into this shoulder. We've got this stretching that's happening on the other side with her rib cage, like so. And you can see her other shoulder is here. Just get this arm here really quick. Now, what's also really crucial here is this other leg. This other leg's really important because it's also supporting a lot of her weight. Now, this happens to be the template for this, happens to be outside thigh, inside knee, outside calf. And that's going to get us to her foot, like so. And then her other leg, her right leg, right, is sweeping out this way. And then it reverses and it goes like this. And it's going to get us to her other foot, which is about right here. I'm going to raise this ground line a little bit. And then we have the strength of her sternocleidomastoid muscles, right, like holding up her head because her head has all this weight. So this is sort of like the guts of it. What I hope you see here is I'm drawing towards the idea. I want to understand the strength of this arm is holding up all of her weight, at least from about here to the right, you see? So everything from here over, for the most part, this whole region is being held up by this arm. And then from about here over, it's by her legs. Now there's other subtle things in here which are important, like, her legs coming out at us, right? So I might want to think about the form of her leg. And you can see that in her shorts, that the ellipse is going this way. So that tells us the force is going that way, right? And her other leg's going the other way. So that leg's going back in space. It's shooting out this knee. And then it's going through a reverse and making its way down to the foot, which is on an angle like that, actually. And then we get down here to the other foot. So that's the general idea. Now, the subtle thing I wanted to show you is, sure, she's really like trying to sweep over this way. And she's trying to keep her body stiff over here, right? Her obliques and all the musculature here is really working hard to do that. But you'll notice, even with all that going on, there is this subtle S moment in here of trying to sweep and fall into here. You can see it in her belly button, right? Her belly button's like a really great indicator of this diagonal movement. I want a little bit of that in there. I want the subtlety of that in there. I can see her stomach is pulling this way to like her pelvis. But I would consider this like secondary, and the primary idea is to get her whole upper body held up by this main structure that we call her arm. All right, so that's one, right? Just to show you, look, I'm drawing to represent ideas. I'm using the force line, right? So that's my language to represent these ideas because I'm drawing forces. And it's all to make me try to represent the ideas I have as to how things work, okay? All right, let's try one more. All right, so here's another image. Again, notice the play that gravity has in all this. Put the G with the arrow, gravity. I'm trying to draw functions. I'm like, wow, this one, her chest wants to fall down, get pulled down by gravity, but it's sweeping up into her hip. So it's like hanging, right? The strength here is in her pelvis, right? Because we go from one side of her pelvis to the other side. And right here, you can see And her leg here is like a pillar, like so. And that leg is doing all the work. All the work. It hooks up to the rest of the pelvis. It's going from front, it's going outside, inside, outside, right? So outside thigh, I call this outside, inside, outside. Inside knee, this is how the forces are flowing. And then it goes to outside calf. And then that'll get us to her foot. Okay. So there it is, right? It's very straight, right? It's trying to sweep under the body. This is a moment, this is the fulcrum basically of balance, okay? From there, she's got her leg on this side of the teeter-totter, and this goes from outside to inside and then back outside. She's pulling this way. That's a really important moment if you think about it, right? Because the tension that's going to be created here between her leg and her foot to her upper body and arm is helping her center herself over this leg. Remember, the reason we're doing this video in the first place is your drawings are only as good as your ideas, right? So I'm trying to show you how I think, right? Like this is the kind of stuff I think about when I'm drawing, right? I'm like, look at that. Look how awesome it is that she's balanced like this and force is pushing up into her pelvis. And this is sweeping over here like this. And then she's got this really strong shoulder over here that's shooting down. This is what I would call a hyperextended elbow. She's pushing into her elbow and that force sweeps back out. She's got her hand and her wrist over here, and that's grabbing onto her foot. I probably won't have time to get into her foot and hand as like super details, but here's sort of a very simple hand and foot. And she's leaning her way down, right? As if she's falling over here, right? This is like this, and her arm is like this. And I'm looking at my drawing, the way I assess my drawing is, does this feel successful from here to here? I don't think so. I think she feels a little big, right? A little long. I'm going to shorten this up. That feels better already. So, and that's what I can do, by the way, is I can kind of keep looking at my own drawing to see, does it feel like it's working? And a good judge of that is to look at your work and say, what is this model actually standing? Do I buy it? Do I buy into the idea that there's standing going on here? That already feels better. Abstractly, what I'm looking at in this pose is this. It's like, here's the fulcrum. She has weight over here. She has weight over here. Do they equal each other, right? Is it going to work? Now, keeping in mind, by the way, if I tried to do this as a male, I would fall over because my center of gravity is higher in my body, which means any guy would fall down. But because she's a female, most of her weight is over here. So it's sitting over the leg. So she really can play with this. For me, no way. I would be on my face. All right. So there's a second one. Again, I'm not going into details here. I want you to see how I think and how the drawings show up from that. All right. Let's do one last quick one. I like this last pose. All right. So here she's seated. Again, we got to think about force, gravity pushing down. The body's forces come from that, right? I like all the thrust in this one that's going into the shoulder. A lot of rotation. This is what I would call an S because she's going like this, and then from that, she's sweeping this way, you see? So the pose starts to appear based off of me thinking about the functions. I'm like, that shoulder's pushing in that way. She's driving down to her arm like this, to her elbow. Coming down to her forearm, into her wrist, over the top of her hand, right? And then she's like crushing her hand down there, almost like she squashed a spider or something, right? You can see how it's like squashed down there. And then all this is happening. So I want to be aware of all this weight. You can see the other side of her shoulder there is like this. Her back's about right here. You can see, let's see, her breast and her rib cage kind of appear out of behind her arm about here. Now, I can push for accuracy. I want to do that, but I don't want to make that the sole purpose I'm drawing. That's just kind of a given, trying to get the proportion and all that other fun stuff, right? That's not the reason I draw, right? Imagine me sitting here and drawing to say, let me see if this measurement's right, or let me see if this measurement's right. There's just so much more going on that I want to accomplish than the measuring. The measuring is just a very small part of the figure drawing. So, here I am, I'm flowing over here. I hit this hard knee of hers and then her calf, and she sweeps down like this. And you can see her foot like that. And then her rear end is like that. Got that nice fluidity up there. And like this. And her leg comes out from behind there. I'm trusting my eyes, right? Like, it's so weird to think her calf touches her rear end right there, right? But I'm like, that's what I see. So that's me allowing my brain to trust my eyes. Remember the equation that we talked about earlier. So something like that. Again, I'm not going to have the time to go into a more sort of complete drawing, but I'm hoping that you guys see how I'm drawing for ideas. So this whole idea is this arm is helping support the fact that she's leaning forward. Her face is about right here. Let's see, where does it come out? It comes out of her shoulder with her neck, and it goes back down into her shoulder like that. And she has this like ponytail here. So there you have it. What I hope that you leave this video with is a sense of, oh, you know what, wait a minute, my drawing doesn't have to be about copying. It can be about way more than that, things that are way more exciting. I can actually try to draw my ideas, and my ideas are about how the model is working, and that's really beautiful. The idea of how the model is working is extremely dramatic. That's where you're starting to draw forces, and your line can represent that. The weight of your line can represent that. The fluidity or roundness or angularity of your line can represent that. There's lots of great things that come out of then trying to draw the figure with force and trying to understand how the models are working. All right, so there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you at drawingforce.com. I want to thank Stan again for hosting me on his amazing YouTube channel. Try drawing with force. Take care.
Awesome, thanks Mike for the demo. If you guys like this video, Mike has part 2 over on his channel. Just click that link in the description to check it out. And if you're liking this year's 12 Days of Proko, come back tomorrow for more good stuff. See you then.